Boom. We're in. Welcome back. Fan Zone live on RugbyPass. Lions edition. And it is the Lions edition now. Absolutely, Stevie. Stephen Ferris, myself, Jim Hamilton, one of the greatest Scots to ever done it, my Uncle Hamish once said. Stephen Ferris, former Ireland Ulster and British Irish Lions hero and just legend of a bloke. Stevie, let's get straight into it. Yes, the Lions lost last night. How bloody good was the game? How good?
Oh, mate. Superb. As soon as the first whistle blew, I knew it was going to be physical. I knew it was going to be nip and tuck come the end of the game. There's going to be a lot more kicking, but how physical were the South Africans in the first 20 minutes, committing 2, 3, 4 men to the breakdowns, counter-rucking, blowing the Lions off the ball, setting the tone. Rassie Erasmus on the touchline, Waterboy on with instructions, and they just seemed like they were right in the zone. They were right on it. I know they faded away. There's a couple of decisions went against them. They went down to 13 men, backs against the wall, but they showed unbelievable resilience and they get the victory. I know it's a South African A team, but for me, Jim, it was a pretty good look at what we're going to see next weekend in the first test. So brilliant, brilliant game. And it feels, Jim, like that's the tour officially started, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all buzzing now. I tweeted it and said that it feels like it's on now. Fans or no fans, there's been a lot of negativity, from everyone, not just us in the build-up. Should it, could it, would it go ahead? I think we're all fixed in now that the tour is going to go ahead. The banter's online from our South African friends over RugbyPass. The guys who write the editorial pieces, let's put that out there. There's a bit of tongue-in-cheek in what they do, but let's put it out there on record. I am a huge South Africa fan. I've got a lot of friends in the South African team. I see it with friends, they might see it the other way around. So a big shout out to all you South African people out there who are enjoying the banter online. Fully deserved win last night, but it's business now. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that I cannot wait for the test series to start. We're not too sure. The game's been confirmed for Saturday, but has it? We'll maybe talk about that after. Let's talk about how the Lions dealt with that physicality. I agree with you. Firstly, Stevie, as a big physical back rower, and I'm one of the hardest in the game to have done, especially around the collisions, how physical that man, Pieter-Steph du Toit, was one of the guys in and around the action. Do you think they were in a bit of shock, really? Because I think the Lions, the guys who play in the Prem, the guys who play in Pro 14, are probably not used to getting hit that hard by one player. It was the sheer physicality, which we know South Africa have. We know that that's their point of difference. We know that's their DNA. But even close to the try line as well, when they were getting absolutely obliterated in the tackle. Do you think they were in a bit of shock? Do you think it took them a while to kind of get over? Because they've not been tested, have they, in the weeks leading up to it? It's all been kind of nice, bit of team run. Shell-shocked or not, that a bit too much?
Do you know what? The South Africans, the intent that they showed, Jim, in the first 20 minutes, I think it did take the Lions a bit of getting used to. It wasn't just with the ball in hand, it was without the ball, as you rightly said. Pieter-Steph du Toit going out and absolutely battering lads. Yes, he needs to work on his tackle technique, as do a number of other players on both sides. But I tell you what, it's the double teaming, triple teaming. They commit a lot of bodies to the ruck. As soon as they hit the floor, they're back on their feet, counter-rucking, making it an absolute mess for Conor Murray to get the ball away. On the 5-metre line, they were just hammering the Lions boys, trying to get over it. They couldn't. And if anything, Jim, that's mentally how how does that fit for the Lions next weekend? They couldn't get over. We know Wyn Jones went over in the second half, but that 10-minute period just before half time where they were losing inches. Every time they picked them went, they were losing a couple of inches then, and told you maybe get another foot, boom, boom. 5 or 6 phases later, they were getting knocked back on their backsides again. I thought their defence was unbelievable. And, it's not just around the fringes, it's the up and in defence. The wingers like to fly up and up and in. And when they miss that, we've seen the Chris Harris pass over the top, Lewis Rees-Zammit nearly get in the corner. It's the work rate from the guys inside, corner flagging. So as soon as the ball leaves them, the Lions beat the South African defence on the outside. It's the corner flagging, the hard work to get there. And their scramble defence was just out of this world. There was a couple of times, Jim, especially in that second half when they were still down to 13 men, I was thinking that they were going to walk in the corner, and then all of a sudden, boom, a couple of South African lads came and absolutely smashed the Lions' attack. And then as soon as they get set in that defensive wall, in and around the breakdown, that's where their strengths are. So very, very impressive. And O'Neill Barr, the defensive coach, will be giving his lads a lot of plaudits after a defensive bit of a masterclass around the fringes last night.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of the collisions then, because it's doing the rounds on social. Of course, it's easy to pick out 10, 15 tackles a game. Oh, what about this? Was it too high? Was a head with contact with the head? Stevie, we've been there as players. We've now seen it as pundits. I think they've got the balance right in terms of protecting players and understanding what rugby incidences are. I thought Jaco Piper dealt with the game really well. Let's talk about the headline one. Obviously, South Africa went down to 13 men. The one around Faf de Klerk, again, we're not looking for clickbait here. We're just trying to talk to people about the lay of the land of what to expect. You mentioned South Africans' tackle technique. They are notoriously high. Faf de Klerk, one of the most committed players, probably the most committed scrum half when it comes around the collision. They know that area with the pick and go, that exercise game that we see close to the try line, they were the guns to start. Everyone's carrying on. They've got to be physical around there. Faf de Klerk got yellow carded. I thought they did it really well in terms of how they spoke about it. I personally didn't feel it was a yellow card, but understand why it was given a yellow card. Just talk us around your thoughts around that, because there's a fine line between brutality and physicality, getting your head in there and getting your head on ahead. What do you think about the decision around Faf de Klerk?
Yeah, for me, Jim, I think it was the right decision by the referee. He took his time. He gave the yellow card. I definitely don't think it was a red card. Faf de Klerk, he finds himself in the defensive line an awful lot for a scrum half. He doesn't mind putting in the big tackles and the big hits on the bigger lads. But, when Wyn Jones got on the ball, and Wyn Jones actually carried really well around the fringes. He got on the ball. He actually got catapulted into Faf de Klerk. I think it was Navidi that got onto the latch. So you got to think here, this is 120, what's Navidi, 105 kgs, 235 kgs, going straight into Faf de Klerk. How is he going to stop him? He leads with the shoulder. It's more or less a bit of a road bump. He's not trying to tackle him. There's no chance Faf de Klerk's going to get his arms wrapped around those two lads coming at us a bit of pace to get over the line. And I think it wasn't contact to the head. Yes, it was high. Faf de Klerk's a really small man, but the two guys are going very low, trying to barge their way over the line. So for me, it was the correct decision, Jim. It was a penalty. Yes, it wasn't ideal. You don't want to paint that picture for referees going forward. So a yellow card was the right decision. And Faf de Klerk came back on and played really well when he did. So, what a player he is also. But he doesn't mind getting stuck in, Jim, does he?
He doesn't, mate. He's quality. He's a quality player. Who do you think benefited most, Stevie, out of that game? Obviously, the Lions, we've spoken about it, have played a couple of team run exercises. No disrespect to the team they play, and especially the Sharks. Japan gave them a little bit of a test in that second half of their match before they flew to South Africa. The South African players desperate to play. They've had nothing in the bank. They've obviously been riddled with COVID. There's still a few players that are still in isolation now. Rassie Erasmus is desperate for that game to be replayed on Saturday. Gats has kiboshed it and said there's absolutely no chance. I'm not too sure whether the Stormers game has been confirmed. I know the team's out there for the Lions that we can maybe look at in a minute. But who benefited, Stevie, most out of that match? The Lions by losing, but understanding the level of physicality, or South Africa getting a real run, or South Africa A, let's call them the Springboks. It's effectively the Springboks. getting a run and setting their bar out early that this is us and we're half cut?
Well, Jim, like if it was me, the South African lads want to get a hit out, and what a hit out it was. They haven't played hardly any rugby over the last 18 months. The Georgia game wasn't particularly exciting for everybody. It was the World Cup final before that, so that's why so many of their international players and World Cup stars were actually starting the game. We know they've been playing a lot of club rugby in France also, but it's hard to beat these kind of games. The British and Irish Lions have had it fairly easy over the last few weeks, putting 70 points on the Sharks and 60 points on the Lions. And then when they come up against it, they find it's going to be a real dogfight over there in South Africa. So for me, I think that the South African lads have definitely got more out of it because they've got a good 80 minutes under their belt. Even Damien De Allende, who was just in cruise control the whole game, he went off with half an hour to go, just resting a couple of guys up, getting a few other guys on that need game time. They've also 3 or 4 other lads to come in there as well, especially in the front row with their 2 props. So yeah, I think for me, Jim, it's a much better head out for the South Africans because they'll have game time under their belt, where the Lions now are scratching their heads going, geez, Owen Farrell didn't play well at 10. Conor Murray made a few dodgy decisions when it came to the captaincy. Oh, jeepers, ALUN Jones is coming back in. Who's going to skipper this British and Irish Lions team now going forward into these test matches? It just seems like the South Africans, Jim, in an 80-minute period, seem in a completely different place to where they were only 10 days ago when they were struck down with COVID and everything else, and now they seem to be gaining momentum. And as you know as well as I do, Jim, momentum is everything in any sport, never mind rugby.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting, isn't it, that it is almost 4 test matches. Obviously, it's going to come down to the test series. You spoke about a few things there. I was going to see if that was a beer, Steve. I'm looking at the time. It's not a beer. It's definitely not. If it was a test match week or a test match day, it definitely would be a beer on the Saturday. Stevie, you spoke about a few things there, so let's kind of go through them, the talking points. Owen Farrell started at 10. Dan Biggar was meant to play 10. He picked up a knock in the team room. Do you think Owen did enough to show that he could potentially start 10? Because it's out there in the public domain that he's still got a real opportunity. He's been given a lot of chances now at 10, obviously at 12. Personally, I think he warmed into the game. I think the first half, a few kind of headline mistakes. I still find it really bizarre that he's not captain and Conor Murray's captain now, but we'll come on to that. But Owen Farrell at 10, has he done enough in your eyes? Have you seen anything that has brought him back to the form? I know what your answer is going to be because you kind of mentioned it before, but we need to talk about it because these are the headline things going in to the test matches at the weekend. What's the front row going to bring? Is Conor Murray going to play 9? Can Faz play 10? What are your thoughts on that? Because he got tested good and proper. I thought his kicking game in the second half, they were on the front foot, the more the lines were significantly better. Owen Farrell, 10, convinced?
Oh, geez, I tell you what, I think I'm going to have to backtrack ever so slightly, Jim. A few people give me a bit of abuse online about, especially on Twitter, just about picking Owen Farrell. I know we sort of jumped the gun a little bit about picking our test team, Jim, after the last game, and I had Owen Farrell starting at 10. And you can only, for me personally, you can only judge somebody by their last performance, and Owen Farrell's wasn't good enough. The charge down by Etzebeth, that led to a try. 5 minutes later, Ken Owens wins a brilliant penalty on the ground. He goes to kick it to the corner, misses touch, started down as a 22-metre restart. The ball's kicked long. A couple of minutes later, the South Africans end up turning it over. And you want steadiness, you want direction from one of your main guys, and Owen Farrell just didn't bring that. But Jim, it's so hard just to step into, let's call it a test match like that, not starting at 10 during the week, maybe running half a dozen plays and the captain's running, then all of a sudden you're starting the match. I think it's really tough for Owen. We know what he's about. 2017 Lions Tour in New Zealand, he was one of the best players there, but he's just not finding his mojo at the minute, and I don't know what it is. And it's funny reading a few things on Twitter, as we all do. Welsh fans, nice to see Owen Farrell play Dan Biggar into the test side. Cheers, Faz. And the South African lads were playing with 13 men, while the Lions were playing with 14 men the whole game when Owen Farrell stepped onto the pitch. This is what people are saying about Owen Farrell, but they quickly forget what he's done for the British and Irish Lions in the past, what he's got in his locker. He does generally bring it in the big games. Dan Biggar not playing has made him even more valuable to the Lions. His pedigree's now went up another couple of levels just because Owen Farrell didn't play particularly well. I do agree with you that his kicking game vastly improved in the second half, and he did get the Lions into the right areas. The contestables were contestables, and he seemed to get the backline flowing a little bit better. But Jim, you can't make these mistakes at this level. And next week, if the Lions go 17-3 down, I can tell you now, there's no way back for them.
Yeah, and it's let's be honest. We need to put it on record, and everyone would have seen. Mate, he's been given a few opportunities now, hasn't he, to show what he can do. He's been given every opportunity. I'm not saying that he's not going to get picked. I still think Owen's one of them players that you could pick and, like you said, and rock up in a big game. But as we know, Gats makes big decisions. He dropped O'Driscoll, headline decision for that third test. Was it in Australia, that one?
Yeah. Australia third test. Jamie Roberts came in and played 13.
Right.
Well, whatever way about. But just one thing on this, Jim. If this was any other player, if this was Finn Russell, if this was Johnny Sexton, if this was Marcus Smith, and they made those same mistakes that Owen Farrell made in the first half, they would be ridiculed. They would be, Marcus Smith isn't good enough to play this standard rugby. Johnny Sexton's past it. We told you that. Finn Russell plays too much rugby in France, too much UAU rugby. You can't be playing like that in a test match game. So, Owen Farrell, yes, he had a very poor first half, but other players would have been absolutely slated for some of the mistakes that Owen Farrell made yesterday. But I still think he's got that winning mentality in him. Jim, you've played with him at Saracens. You know a little bit more about his personality and the person that he is. Is he a big game winner?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. You know him as an individual more than I do. Is he the type of fella that actually relishes not playing well and wants to rectify that, or will he go into his shell a little bit because he isn't in the form of his life?
Well, I'm not too sure, because when I played with him at Saracens, he was in the form of his life. So, you know what I mean? He dropped a ball in a big game. I think it was against Toulouse. Brushed it off, no problem. He obviously then went on to be England captain, and everything was great for them. I think this is just a bad season, isn't it? You look at everything with Saracens in the lead up to that. England didn't play very well. He's the front man for that. Confidence is low. You go back, you're playing in the championship. You're being questioned for the first time ever in your career, even if he should have been on the tour. I think we agreed that he should have been on the tour. He's now been given the opportunity to play both at 10, both at 12. Through fault or design because of Biggar. Then on the flip side of that, you got Dan Biggar in the form of his life. The form of his life. Wales win the championship. I watched him play for Northampton. He was phenomenal. Against Japan, he was brilliant. So I'm thinking everything now for him is the kind of polar opposite in terms of him personally and his confidence going in. The fact that he missed the game last night and the Lions weren't quite there in that first half. My opinion, and I said it from the start, I think that Dan Biggar should be starting at 10. That's, and that's what I think. As we know, Gatlin will make the big decisions, and that is going to be a big decision, because then does he put Owen on the bench as a 10-12 cover? They do a 6-2 split. It's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds, because we know how important the subs are. Anyway, talking about subs and selection, the other big headline is around 7. And I'm going to talk about Tom Curry, his performance. I think he got players or fans vote for man of the match last night. We've seen how good Hamish Watson has been. Gatlin spoke about it. I read his blog on the British and Irish Lions site. And he said, Tom Curry was great, but there's also no doubt that Hamish Watson has been having a great tour as well. It's going to be a slough selection call, and there's going to be a few selection calls. Stevie, number 7, Tom Curry was probably the man with the jersey in the lead to the tour. I'm a huge fan of Hamish Watson. He's a good mate of mine, but that's irrelevant because his performances have been so good. Did Tom Curry do enough last night, or do you think that Hamish Watson's now got the jersey? Can they play together, 6 and 7? These will be the decisions You give me your opinion on who you think, or both, and I'll give you who I think at the back end of that. Tom Curry or Hamish Watson? If there's I was going to say the test match tomorrow. The test match next Saturday. Can't believe it.
The test match next Saturday, Jim, I'll be picking Tom Curry at number 7. The reason for that is, yeah. The reason for that is that he's proven himself against much better competition. So Hamish Watson, we all know, has been playing unbelievably well, not just for the last 6 weeks, but for the last year and a half. But I just think the level of competition that Tom Curry played against last night, and for me, he was probably the best back row player on the pitch. I think it standed him really, really well. He made a number of carries, 37 metres in his carries that he made. Nice offload as well, a couple of turnovers in there. He looks like he can link play as well. Just really, really smart guy when it comes to reading the game. And I would have him playing number 7. People talk about Hamish Watson and his physicality of what he brings with the ball in hand. I think Tom Curry brings exactly the same. Yes, he doesn't run into people as upright and try to bosh people and use his upper body strength, but I think he's got slightly better footwork than Hamish Watson. And what a man like Hamish Watson to bring off the bench, or Tom Curry. I think one of them will start and one of them will be on the bench. And if you ask me now, Jim, I'd be going with Tom Curry. I just thought he was truly outstanding last night and played super, super well.
It's really interesting because I'm easily manipulated and convinced. It's the level of competition, and like you said, and Tom Curry in the lead. I agree. He was probably the man with the jersey. Hamish Watson has played amazing in lesser competitive games. Tom Curry stops players dead on their feet, chops them down straight away. I think the thing is with Hamish as well is he goes a little bit off script. Do you know what I mean? He'll get the ball, he can go sideways, and we know and watch where South Africa come in, they're direct. And I don't think Sam Simmonds has done enough to put himself on the bench. He's just, for whatever reason, the timing that he's come on, he's not had enough game time. It's almost like you have now got Curry, and you've got Watson who plays in a similar role to Sam Simmonds. They're definitely both going to be in the match day 23. I don't think it really matters now who starts. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a player that's coming on at 30 minutes, it's probably just as important as the guy that starts the game as well.
No, I think it does matter, Jim. I think it does matter who starts, because I completely agree with you with Hamish Watson, the way he does run sideways across the pitch. If you're doing that in the first 20 minutes of a game against South Africa with an up and in defence, Hamish will end up stepping outside, and Peter Steph Tutoy will come in and absolutely clean his clocks. I think you'll have that little bit more freedom with 60 minutes on the clock. It did open up. I know there was so much kicking in the last half an hour of last night's game, but if the Lions are going to play a bit more rugby, Hamish Watson, for me, would be slightly better suited in that second half. And you want a steady Eddie in there who's just going to rip people apart. And Tom Curry, for me, is that guy. I know everybody will have their own opinions. There'll be Scots, men and women, watching this over and saying that they will go with Hamish Watson because of what he's done in the last year. But just on form at the minute, the level of competition that both players have played against over the last couple of weeks, I would be going for Tom Curry or Hamish Watson on the bench, as we just see the squad, Jim. Yeah,
the squad's been announced. We got announced a little bit ago, but we thought we'd put it on screen. We'll have another look at that squad now. I was going to say in a bit because I wanted to talk about some headline performance. But what do you take out of seeing that squad against the Stormers on Saturday? Do you see any? Does that make you think that guys won't necessarily be in the test side? It's obviously still a week out when they play from the test match. Can you read anything into that? Guys getting game time. Great to see Marcus Smith at 10. I want to talk a bit about Adam Beard as well. I thought he was brilliant when he came on. I think Luke Cowan-Dickey's still got an opportunity to start. Ali Price at 9, for me, should be starting ahead of Conor Murray. And I suppose that's something else that I want to talk about, Stevie, with you as well. But I mean, Duhan van der Merwe. I mean, there's guys that have stuck their hand up on this tour already. I think we saw more of the players and what they're about against the competition that they played against. But anyone from that squad that you think has got a chance of cementing their team? In fact, let's go twofold. Anyone last night that stood out, Stevie, where you think they've put their hand well and truly up, and then we can look at the squad kind of interjecting between the two?
Yeah. Obviously, Tom Curry. I think Faletau played a lot better in the wider channels. I don't think he's the type of guy to just run into those brick walls around the fringes. I think he loves the open space a lot more. We've talked about it before, about that try out in the wide channel against the All Blacks. Jim, apart from Tom Curry, I think Adam Beard was exceptional when he came on. And he's certainly playing better than Johnny Hill. Is he playing better than Ian Henderson? There's question marks now over that. I was probably calling Ian Henderson to start alongside Itoje in the second row. He was a bit quieter last night. Itoje was getting all the plaudits, even though I thought Itoje was a penalty machine for half a night. Giving away, Nigel Owens was on the commentary talking about Itoje was harshly done by coming through the maul. And it was actually the decisive penalty in the game, Jim, where they won the line out. And I know the Lions came back and nearly get into the other half, but it was a decisive moment in the game. And like, he was swimming up the side and came straight through the middle. It was a penalty. There was another one. We all know how good he is around the breakdown when it comes to the box kick. Like, Navidi was onside, right on the far side of the rock. And Itoje, I actually paused it like 3 or 4 times last night. And Itoje was 3/4 of the way up the rock. And then Faf de Klerk picks the ball up, kicks it. It's half charged down. It ends up getting the touch. And Jaco Piper asked Barnesy about, was that okay? Was he okay? Was he okay? He was miles offside. And if I was a betting man, I would be putting a lot of money on a penalty being given against Mara Itoje for being offside at the side of the rock, trying to charge down a box kick in the first test. And we talk about painting the right pictures, and Adam Beard is painting all the right pictures for the coaches at the minute. And I think he's been very, very good off the bench. An absolute handful, huge man, brilliant line-out option, his work rate, getting back up off the deck, firing into things. He made a mistake last night. I think he gave away a penalty at one of the mauls. And then the next maul, geez, he made up for it. You could see it in his eyes, Jim. He was so up for it. And I think he's been one of the guys. You always get, yourself, Jim, there's always one person that comes in late or, gets onto the plane when the boys have already taken off. And they do themselves justice. They do themselves really proud. And I think Adam Beard, for me, is one of the guys that's going to be in with a sniff of getting a test place. Now, probably not in the starting 15, but maybe on the bench. Tom Curry last night, as we've talked about, I wasn't really that impressed with the front row, to be honest. I think the front row that's starting on Saturday is more or less looking like the test front row. Maybe bring Jamie George in there. We know Ronan Kelleher's now been called out to the Lions. Is there an injury or a few niggles there? So we'll wait and find out. Chris Harris, apart from that missed tackle on Cheslin Colby for that unbelievable counter attack, I thought he played well.
He made up for it. Didn't he?
Yeah, he did make up for it. And lastly, somebody who's played a good bit of rugby in this tour so far would be Elliot Daly. I think he's been pretty solid. I know he probably would have wanted to put that left-footed kick into touch where Cheslin Colby counter-attacked off, but he's been so versatile, playing all over the pitch, stepping in when he's been needed, and he hasn't let the side down. His defensive game as well has been pretty good. So, yeah, there's a couple of guys, Jim, from last night's game. Looking at the team sheet coming into this weekend, there's a few more lads in that team sheet that I expect to start next week's first test.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just piggyback the Adam Beard thing as well. I tweeted after the game last night. The commentary was right on him. Sam Warburton speaking about him. He's rocked up on tour. He's got a real opportunity now because of the size and because he got the opportunity last night to play against what looked like, maybe 5 out of that pack starting for the Springboks. And yeah, the size of the man, the maul, obviously, dominance that South Africa normally have, the scrum dominance that they normally have. And he's played his way, I would say now, definitely into the squad. And like I said on my tweet, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up starting with Maro, who I agree did give away a few penalties, but he's just effective. Just as in, he does give away a few penalties, mate, he still slows the ball down. He's getting 3 or 4 turnovers a game. And I don't think there's any question that Maro will be starting the first test. Where there might be some questions, Stevie, is around Conor Murray at 9. He was obviously made captain, and his performances haven't been amazing. let's be honest. I think that Ali Price has played better. I don't know whether that matters, again, to the level of competition. Now that they played against, having seen last night, Alan Wynne-Jones is coming back on tour. Let's hear what Conor Murray says about this, actually. Let's roll a VT and we'll see what Conor Murray says, and then we can talk about Lazarus coming back on tour with a dislocated shoulder. I was out for 6 months. He's been out for 6 days or something, or 80 days, whatever it is. Let's hear what Conor Murray says about him coming back into the camp.
Yeah, no, look, I think Al, it's an unbelievable recovery from Al. He's a tough fella, and I really felt for him when he went off against Japan. You just had a strange feeling that it wasn't, it was a pretty serious injury. So for him to turn it around really quickly, he's been talked of as an unbelievable professional his whole career. So it's no surprise to me. And look, I want to win a test series with the Lions, and having the best men available to do that is what I want. I welcome Al back, absolutely. He's going to add an awful lot of experience, an awful lot of leadership, and he's a top player too. So it's not an issue for me. I'm a player who wants to win the test series.
What do you reckon, Stevie? Because there were question marks over him being captain. There were question marks over whether or not he was even in the position to start at 9. The fact that he was made captain makes you think that he is the starting 9. Do you think it's good that Alan Wynne-Jones is returning to take over the captain, which it seems like when you listen to Gats, he's going to bring them in a room? Obviously, Alan Wynne-Jones has probably just landed this morning. He's got to be in isolation for 2 or 3 days before he can join up with the squad. Do you think it's beneficial for the Lions that Alan Wynne-Jones goes back and takes over as captain? I mean, will Alan Wynne-Jones even be in the first test? Will he be on the bench? There's so many question marks, which is crazy, but obviously the time that we're in. One, that Alan Wynne-Jones has come back in such quick time, but also, is he going to take straight over as captain, or will he for Conor Murray in the first test? Has Conor Murray done enough to start the first test as captain? This is the kind of questions that millions want to know, Stevie.
Yeah, I think the people out there that have watched the games over the last couple of weeks would say that Conor Murray isn't playing his best rugby. Ali Price, as you rightly say, is. Is Conor Murray a good captain? I think, he hasn't captained any team before in his career. He made a few dodgy decisions for me last night. South Africa down to 13 men. I know it was said on commentary by Sam Warburton, but I was thinking exactly the same thing. Like, surely you would go for the scrum, wear down the opposition, take away the South African strength and turn it into a weakness, go after something. Mentally that sets a huge tone for the next couple of weeks if you get a pushover maul or a pushover scrum, and you embarrass the front row of the South Africans. This quick tap and go, and it's almost like he lost himself a little bit. Now Ken Owens picked up the ball every time there was a penalty. He picked up the ball and put it to his foot. And, as if he was going to take a quick tap penalty. Ken Owens has captained a few teams in his time. He sort of, for me, made Conor Murray's decision for him by the way, his body language and the way he was kind of wanting the ball for that quick tap and go. So I don't think all the fingers can be pointed here at Conor Murray for those decisions. But as we've talked about before, Jim, you want your captain to be number 1 on the team sheet. The first name on the team sheet, that's Paul O'Connell. When I played for Ireland or Brad O'Driscoll, when a game comes to England, it was the Martin Johnsons, the Lawrence Delanios, whoever it may be. When it comes to Wales, it's Alan Wynne-Jones. But I don't think it is Alan Wynne-Jones at the minute. How? Surely he hasn't played rugby in 18, 19 days after dislocating his shoulder. How can he come in and play test match rugby against the most physical, powerful team in world rugby in South Africa and expect to perform? It just, for me, doesn't work. He needs to get game time. But we're running out of games here, Jim. So for me, what's the big plus of bringing him back in? I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. Hopefully we'll see it in the next couple of weeks. I think Conor Murray, when Gats told him that he was coming back, the only positive for him is that he wasn't going to be called Skips anymore. Apart from that, I wouldn't be too pleased at being named the tour captain and then all of a sudden you're coming into a test match week and you're not captain anymore. I think that's but that's just Gats, isn't it? Isn't it? That's just Gats. He doesn't care what other people think. He's just, in his mind, making the right decisions for the squad, what's going to benefit more. And if Alan Wynne-Jones benefits the squad, being brought back in as captain, then happy days. We've got to back it. We've got to get behind it. but I'm not sure how much rugby ALUN Jones is going to play, Jim.
Yeah, it makes me think that he'll have to be in the 23, the matchday 23. Now they've brought him back for the first test. Otherwise, there's no real reason. Or like Martin Cross said there on his tweet, he obviously is popular in the camp. Maybe there is a lack of leadership in terms of leaders that are in form, or leaders that Warren thinks can perform at the very highest level and back that up with the leadership and everything else that goes with that. Stevie, if we look forward, let's jump past the game at the weekend. Look forward to the tests. What changes need to be made tactically in this Lions team if they're going to? Well, they're definitely going to put pressure on South Africa. There's no doubt about that. They've got some quality players. But when you looked at last night's performance, and we didn't see any different in the South African team that we thought they would. They didn't play this unbelievable offloading game. I think don't kick to Chesney Colby is obviously a big one. Discipline's going to be a big one. But tactically, are you at a point in your mind where you think, right, this is how we can beat South Africa? Having watched the game last night, how they need to change maybe tact?
Yeah, Jim, they need to get on the edge. They need to try and get away around this up and in defence. The kick pass works well a lot of the time, but you got to get it on the money. You got to have people around it. You got to do it in the right areas of the pitch. I think the Lions can't run into brick walls. They actually had 7 offloads last night, believe it or not, and their offloading game has been brilliant over the last couple of weeks, and that's why they've been spanking the Sharks, the Lions, because of the way they've got the ball out of contact. Against South Africa, the majority of the time, when it did free up, they were able to get those offloads. But South Africa are brilliant at closing the space down, man on ball, locking the ball up, firing through the breakdown. You got to win the ruck, Jim. You got to win the breakdown, and they didn't for the first 20 minutes of last night's game, and that's why they found themselves 17-3 down. We can point the finger at Owen Farrell for the chip kick and getting charged down, and the Cheslin Kobe bit of magic and the missed tackle by Chris Harris. But it's all the stuff that led up to that set the tone for the South African team, and that huge brutality, physicality that they showed and rocked up with. It has to be matched. That's the first thing that the Lions have to do, is match that. And if they can't match it, I think they're better rugby players. I really do. I think they've got more skill. I think they've got better tactics. They can get the ball to the edge. They've got to have, Bundy Aki's really good at taking it up the centre, option out the back, somebody coming short, option out the back. A bit like the way we watched Japan play against the Lions, having those options further out the back, taking a few more yards, getting deeper. I'm no backs coach, Jim, but it's about trying to find that edge. And if they can get on the edge, I certainly believe that they can make line breaks. And when they make line breaks, hopefully they'll be in a better position to score a few more points. The South Africans will continually give away penalties. They will. It's about making sure that you find your touches, and making sure that when you get your line out drive, that you eke another penalty out of the opposition. And when you got your foot on their throat, you keep it there. And last night they didn't. And hopefully they can do that next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talking of next week, TV, we're going to be live. We're going to be together. We're going to be in a room together, and we're going to be doing a live fan zone from London Welsh Rugby Club. Apparently, there's Freedom Day in England on Monday. I don't know what that means, apart from that we can just all scream freedom and be together, which is a lot, considering what we've done. So for people watching this, you can tune in live to that next week. It's around 7 o'clock. We'll put some stuff out on the socials. But from us here at RugbyPass Fan Zone Live edition, Stevie, thanks very much. Look, we could be here all day talking about every position, couldn't we? But we'll leave it with that. Some of the headlines coming out of yesterday's match and the lead up to the test match next week and Stormers match at the weekend. Big thank you from us here at RugbyPass. Enjoy your day.